Part 3. How God protected His chosen people and led them into the Promised Land. Chapter 6. God calls Moses to lead His people. The origins of Moses. After Jacob wrestled with the angel, God gave him the new name Israel. So the descendants of Jacob came to be called the Israelites. But they were also known in the Bible as Hebrews, especially in the story of Moses. And eventually, they were known as Jews. For some time after Joseph's death, the Hebrews continued to enjoy freedom and prosperity in Egypt. While the descendants of Lot and Esau were leading a nomadic life in the areas surrounding Canaan, Jacob's descendants were living in peace and growing in power and wealth in Egypt. The descendants of each of Jacob's sons became an entire tribe. Together, they came to be called the 12 tribes of Israel. But finally, a new Pharaoh ascended the throne, one who was not friends with Joseph's people. Then everything changed, and the life of the Hebrews became very hard. They were enslaved and forced to make countless bricks for Pharaoh's great building projects. No longer a happy people, the Hebrews became sad and weary in the service of the Egyptians. What brought about this change in their condition? The new pharaohs were jealous of the power and wealth of the Hebrew people. They feared that these settlers from Canaan might still have close ties to other peoples outside of Egypt who were rivals for Egyptian power and wealth. In addition, the pharaohs needed slave laborers to build their temples, canals, and cities. Why did God allow these great sufferings to afflict His chosen people? To answer that question, we must note that the hearts of the people had changed even before they became slaves to Pharaoh. In their time of freedom and happiness, many of them had fallen into imitating the evil ways of the Egyptians. The Hebrews often worshipped the false gods of Egypt instead of the true God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The hard lot to which the pharaohs subjected the Hebrews made them refocus their thoughts on God to ask for His help. When they did, their years in Egypt came to an end. According to the promise made by God to Abraham, the time for their return to Canaan was at hand. That wonderful departure from slavery in Egypt is called the Exodus. In spite of all they had to undergo, the Hebrews in Egypt constantly increased in number. Pharaoh feared that they might rise up in revolt against him. To keep down the number of those who could bear arms in battle, Pharaoh ordered that every Hebrew boy should be killed as soon as he was born. This order of Pharaoh was not always obeyed because Hebrew families found ways to protect their babies. Many little boys were saved, and among them was one called Moses. For 3 months, the mother of Moses concealed him at home. But as he grew, she feared that he might be discovered. So she made him a wicker basket and covered it with tar so it would be waterproof. She placed the baby in the basket and set it down among the reeds that grew close to the banks of the Nile River. Then she pushed it away, downriver, praying to God to take care of her little boy. Miriam, the older sister of Moses, stood at a distance, watching to see what would happen to her little brother. Now, just at that moment, the daughter of the cruel Pharaoh, with her maidservants, approached the river to bathe in it. Pharaoh's daughter saw the basket, and she ordered one of her maids to bring it to her. When she uncovered it, she found the poor crying baby. "This is one of the Hebrews' children," she said. Miriam, at a distance, trembled for the safety of her brother. But when she saw that the princess looked lovingly at the babe, she ran up to her. "Shall I go and call you a nurse from the Hebrew women to nurse the child for you?" she asked. The princess agreed, so Miriam went and got her mother. The princess, not knowing the woman, placed Moses in his own mother's care and promised to pay for her services to the child. When Moses was older, the princess took him to live with her in the palace. There he was educated as a prince. He ate the best kind of food and wore the finest clothing. Under private teachers, he learned to read and write the picture language of the Egyptians. He studied arithmetic, learned how to survey the land, and came to understand the religious beliefs and different social classes of the Egyptians. We should consider for a moment the remarkable plan God had for Moses. Though the boy was doomed to die by the Pharaoh's command, the Lord rescued him and had him raised as a prince in that same Pharaoh's palace. It was God's strategy to train Moses there for leadership, not as the ruler of Egypt, but as the champion of God's chosen people who would lead them out of slavery back home to the land of their ancestors. For this destiny to be fulfilled, Moses had to grow up in Pharaoh's court. But one day, his world of privilege and comfort came to a sudden end.